So welcome to a new episode of the Healing Matrix Online. Today we have a guest that is very close to home, Gunther Kern, who is a co-founder of the Healing Matrix Online himself, but also he's done many things in the healing sector. He's a biodynamic gardener, an international lecturer and course leader who's been working in more than 4 countries internationally for 35 years. He's been involved in many things. I believe you were a competitive swimmer in your youth, Hans, is that correct?
That's all right, yeah, quite. That's another lifetime.
Of course, you've been sort of working in different countries. You've been in the States, been in Spain, been in the UK. You've set up many groups of biodynamic gardeners. You've kind of set up lots of local groups, lectured internationally, and you're also very active in running some biodynamic gardening courses in the UK at the moment. So you've been in, worked with Doctors of the World, been in Mexico, been in the States. So I think you've got a long history of working with healing and nutrition and sports and so on. So very warm welcome to our show today. And of course, I've got the privilege to count you as one of my friends and a co-founder of the Healing Matrix Online. And you're also the founder of Holistic Living University. So welcome.
Thank you so much. Thanks for the amazing introduction. When people start telling and reflecting back the things I've been doing, I sometimes think I've been here 3 lifetimes.
Well, you've certainly been busy.
Yeah, it's life is for living.
Yeah, no, exactly. And so, I'm really curious about sort of asking you because you've done so much and you've sort of all of the fields that you work on are related, sports, nutrition, gardening, getting the right nutrients in, getting the right balance in, and so on. But I'm really curious about how did you get into all this? How did you get into healing? What brought you to it?
Yeah, it's an interesting question. And like for most of us, it probably takes us back to our childhood because that's when trouble starts or when the opportunities start. And for me, when I was very young, I was supposed to be really a cripple. And I'm exaggerating as I usually do, but yeah, I was supposed to develop scoliosis. I was totally undernourished, though my mother overfed me with beautiful German, Austrian, Hungarian cooking. Being the only child, I was literally stuffed like a goose for the goose pate, the liver pate, and it didn't do me any good. So my nutrition was very rich, overfed. My digestive system was upset. I was very sensitive from very early on about anything that was chemical, artificial fertilizers. So I was really like a living test tube on this earth for both on the physical level with my body, on the biological level with the food, and also for emotional contamination, I could say, because I was growing up in a very emotionally expressive but conflictive environment, Hungarian influenced. So on all levels, really, I was confronted with a lot of challenges from the start. Mm-hmm. And my savior was really having a knock at the door one day and my neighbors going, "Come swimming."
And what sort of age?
So I was 12 years of age, and as I was like a cat, because I had a near-death experience drowning at 5 years of age.
Oh, wow.
And survived that, I didn't want to get near water. And I think at 10 years of age, I was forced to learn swimming. And then at 12 years of age, they came along. And it's probably difficult for some people to imagine what it's like for a child to grow a foot in 1 year, 30 centimeters. So by 12 years of age, I was my height that I'm now, totally deficient in calcium, rickets developing, deformations in the body, and swimming was like really getting me into an environment of joy-filled, exercise, camaraderie, strong coaches that were challenging me, get that head in the water and, get over the drowning and get good. And I think it started there at 12 years of age, where I think I was blessed by having coaches, by having friends, comrades, and almost surrogate parents who were really interested in my well-being.
Isn't that fascinating? I mean, I'm always fascinated by people's stories, particularly those people who get into the healing world. And, of course, there's a lot of information in the books, and there's a lot of things that we learn, a lot of information that we get from what other people write about. But it's actually the personal journey, and it's fascinating how we end up becoming experts in the areas that we are weaker, or the things that we lack, and we then end up perfecting. So it looks as though your journey into becoming a healer, pretty much like many people that we have interviewed and we're in contact with, seems to come as a result of your personal journey with your own deficiencies, with your own difficulties and struggles.
Absolutely. And you would say, well, how is it possible at that early age to know about all that, or looking for that consciously? But it's so nice to see that if there's community and people who are aware of your situation, like these parents of my friend of mine and the coaches, and that environment that holds you and nourishes you, nurtures you, and believes in you. I really excelled in that kind of environment, whereas at home, I just got all the stick. So I would start living in the swimming pools. At 15 years of age, I was coaching younger children already. And it was like, what leads us to become who we're becoming? I didn't know I was going to want to become a teacher, but something in me already propelled me to also share what I learned with others at a very young age. At 17, I was a semi-professional swim coach and a lifeguard. And my journey to professional life, or the way I live my life now, where basically I might have a main job, but all my passion comes out in my free time. And at my job, I chose a job where I would also be able to live my passion. But school was certainly not my passion. It took up most of my life. But then when I was out of school, I just lived my life to the full, becoming the swim coach, competing, training, playing water polo, hanging out in the swimming pools all my teenage life while I could during the summer, being a sun worshiper, being in nature. It was a life. I couldn't wish any other life on anybody else. It was fully lived and out there in nature with the element water, which have a love-hate relationship as one of my healing powers, I could say.
So it's really interesting that even though you went to school and you had some appointed teachers who were professionally doing the job of teaching you and passing on knowledge and so on, that it was a self-appointed mentor like your neighbor who took you, the first step to actually take you to do something that you then really enjoyed and became really important. Well, you describe it as a life savior. So it's interesting how important, community and coaching and mentoring is.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
And
I want to honor here also on a more spiritual level, one of my uncle, the youngest brother of my mother, who realized that, from the age of 9, that I was actually capable to go to high school, what's equivalent to high school here in England or in America, a gymnasium, where I would get a really good education, which I didn't take up fully because I was too tired, usually, and not interested. But again, there were special teachers in physical education, in arts, and maybe one or the other in maths, for example. And you could say those were real inspirations for my life, because they didn't just come and teach the subject. They came as a full person. They lived their passion. They would bring their research material into class. They would invite us home and share their social life. They weren't just our teachers. And I think when you have examples like that early on in life, I think we're drawn to that because that's what brings fulfillment.
Yeah. Okay. And so I think putting together what I think I know about you and your kind of life trajectory together with, I think what you're saying about sort of bringing spirituality in and bringing that wholeness in, I imagine that that's when you then got in touch with anthroposophy and started becoming interested in that. Is that correct?
Well, that would have been nice if it would have been that easy. I think life gives us many challenges that we need to learn to turn into opportunities. And one of the challenges was school finished. I had no idea about living, because in school you're not taught about living and, you know, relating to professional life and the world and people and how to socialize and all that, because you have your kind of protected environment. I had to go to the army for 1.5 years. You know, it's conscription, obligatory conscription in Germany. I didn't know how to be a conscientious objector yet, because I didn't know what to object yet. And so I had to go through a dramatic experience of illness. There was a vaccination. It really put me down for weeks with the illness that we were vaccinated against. I can't remember what it was. I hyperventilated because I didn't want to be there in the army. It was like, it was murder being in the army. And I was suicidal. I was depressed, being far away from the loved ones, from my sports, from my comrades, suddenly in a new environment. But blessed was the opportunity to be a community of young people who thought and felt the same as me. And we teamed up and created this, the first time this experience that, again, community and supporting each other against the threat that which was the superiors that tried to put us down and kill our egos and ourself. It was a struggle that I felt I fully was able to live and learn actually how to build community. It was my first community building experience. And coming out of the army, my big question was also during the army, reading a lot of psychology from the early psychologists, Adler, Freud, Jung, what have you, the modern ones, the nihilists, philosophy. I studied Latin while I was bored being in the army. So I didn't just waste away there. I looked for every opportunity to learn there. And then I had this big question, who is God and what is freedom? And one morning, fixing my exhaust on my VW Beetle, I realized that God was within me. And then I had decided to study, to become a teacher by that time in English and physical education, had a really great mate in college. And as we were philosophizing constantly about freedom and wondering where our emotions come from and why we're so fucked up, excuse my language, good old German. And he brought one day Philosophy of Freedom of Rudolf Steiner. And that's, you know, probably the first meeting with anthroposophy, Rudolf Steiner. And then I decided also subsequently to go to a cultural center in Stuttgart, which was led by anthroposophists, where I met the opportunity to come to England and hear about Emerson College, which was an anthroposophical adult education center. And I thought, well, that's interesting. Maybe I should learn English properly in England and study and, you know, open my vista from a very narrow education in the conventional school to very wide cultural, spiritual insight in what I was knowing now in physical facts, materialistic facts from studying and from school.
Right. Okay. So again, I think what impressed me in that is that you were talking about quite a traumatic experience, and an experience that it was so difficult and so anxiety provoking that the only way out seemed to be, you know, because of your suicidal thoughts, sort of the only way out seemed to be to actually end your life. And actually what really got you out of that place was a community, a sense of support by your peers, and then the deep search, really, really deep search of your own freedom, your own spirituality, and then you found that. Wow, that's a hell of a journey.
It was a rugged journey. I wouldn't wish it on anybody. At the same time, I'm thankful because it, as you just, I mean, you summarized it so well. It really got me in focus, and it gave me this amazing opportunity. I don't think I had only two maybe periods in my life where I could say I excelled and I flourished so much as when I had this opportunity to come to Emerson College in England. and learn literally about every aspect of life
Mm-hmm.
with an artistic, spiritual, cultural outlook
Mm-hmm.
that I hadn't received in my schooling as a teenager.
Yeah.
So it really formed, shaped, and gave me color for my adult life to draw on and to enrich my life and to look for the greater opportunities.
Yes, and I think that sort of that explains a lot of things about, you know, what I know about you, that you're very passionate about holistic, integrative health, and that includes the physical, the mental, the spiritual, all dimensions of the human being. And it looks as though you opened up to educating in an integral sort of holistic way. So I know that Rudolf Steiner talked about many different things, and he developed some of his followers followed his ideas and philosophy and applied it to different areas.
Yeah.
And there's medicine, and there is, of course, education, and there are many different things. And somehow you ended up, it looks as though you went to train as a teacher, and yet you ended up sort of developing the biodynamic gardening more than anything else. How did that happen?
That's right. Yeah, that's right. It's, again, a bit of a journey of discovery, but when I was still in Germany, I had the opportunity to actually study within my the college world of education for one semester, half a year. And as I was really in that sort of process of decision making, will I take up going towards a way of education that really is centered on the children rather than on the teacher and on integrating children into the existing society? I was looking for an education to free people up to really live their life and for them to create their own life, their own profession, their own expression, and their own living. And World of Education seems to provide that, which is one of the pillars that Rudolf Steiner brought in terms of renewing education. So we can become free thinkers and love learning, because I think what I learned in school is not to learn. It was just to memorize and then have an exam and forget it. Whereas in World of Education, it's really about loving learning, loving discovery, loving the journey, and constantly having curiosity. And I think if we don't have curiosity, that shuts us down. It really thwarts our how could I say, the vitality. Yeah, it really thwarts that, because vitality comes out of that interest for the world. When we get too interested in ourselves, we just shut down. And I had a few episodes of that. You know.
Okay. Yeah, and again, I'm really struck by something that I think I sort of said earlier on, but again, it looks like, you know, trainings are often about passing on information. And so you may think that gardening is about knowing which seeds to plant and when and what time and in what kind of place. And education is about bringing up children so that they learn this faculty and that faculty and what have you. But it's actually what's hidden, what's between the lines, that actually, you know, what I'm hearing in your development as a biodynamic gardener, and then of course teacher and lecturer, is, and I know you've done this work, you know, with deprived communities abroad and so on. The hidden words that are not being mentioned, but I'm hearing, are community, curiosity, expansion, empowerment. All those things are the healing. You know, of course, properly grown vegetables are healing in themselves, but it's all the hidden that goes with it.
And what I need to say, really, because behind all that I'm saying now is actually the drive, almost the urge, the obsession of the spirit. Like I said earlier, looking for God, looking for freedom. There was this urge, remembering a teacher in school when I was 18, and she talked about the inequality between North and South, you know, and the limit to resources on the earth. So I grew very much up in the time of the Cold War, you know, sirens going off every day, the Russians are going to bombard us, the war in Israel and Egypt. I mean, I thought the world would come to an end when I was a boy. But then in school, it opened up a whole new facet of seeing, well, we're in this world where there's also inequality. There's not you know, this fear of war is just like in our mind to keep us seeing that we as rich people in our developed countries, industrialized countries, are keeping the people from the poorer countries to really live life to the full because we're robbing them of their resources. And it was so strong in my mind. It was such a frustration. It was such an anger. My spirit was outraged about this. And I think I carried this in the background, and it drove me to look for solutions that would help me to be a bridge, to bridge the have and have nots, bridge the sources and resources, and become resourceful so we can actually make things from nothing. And when I met at Emerson College, a new program that just had sort of been incubated and not, how do you say, like conceived and gestated. At the time I was in my foundation year where I explored all the different areas of anthroposophy in life, I was very clear that I needed to be part of that. Because that rural development, integrated rural development program, I could learn everything of how to do things from scratch, how to become resourceful in myself and with others and share it with others, how to learn about world religions and world cultures, and go into different cultures and really bridge that gap between what I knew coming from a refugee family myself who have lost everything, and helping people who might have been in an area of crisis which was caused by the greed for resources and wars, etc. And that's what led me later to the journey with Doctors of the World in Mexico, and teaching and instructing for many years development workers in how to use simple technologies and simple methods from the ground, from the earth, industries, village industries, cottage industries, the whole nutrition side of food security, from local food production, and also to create, well, recreate or rediscover our dignity in our own culture, in our own roots that are based in the earth. And when we have that as a tool set, I think then from that strength, we can recreate community.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. And so, again, I'm fascinated by how much you've done, what such a rich life experience that you've had, and I keep wondering what all this means today in today's world for people who are listening, for people who are watching this interview. I'm interested in what is it, what do you make of health, illness? How do you see everything that you've learned being applicable to the world today as we know it?
Before I answer that question, I want to just intercept and add one snippet, which I think is very essential in my life, because at the time I thought it kept me from being able to live all that I mentioned right now. And that was when my children came along, 3 children, and the lovely wife I had for many years, who was able to also nurture the children. And this possibility of being able to hold the horse. I had to give suddenly something that I thought I would give to the world to my children. And I wasn't always there for them because I was this worldly guy. I needed to go out into the world, and it created an interesting dynamic with my children where I think a lot of people are so close with their children, noses stuck into their face, not leaving them the space that I think community and individual development happens also at home. And I think we have to start at home, first with ourselves, then with our family. And I think it's important to mention the family. And a modern family is not necessarily a conventional family where, you're happily married ever after until you death us parteth. And the dad or the mom's not always there for the children, and they are learning also challenges. And it's wonderful to see that this kind of opportunity that I had to go away once in a while, my wife looking after my children, it was like, it also gave the children the freedom themselves, because if I was in their face, it would not have helped them. And we have the deepest friendship and relationship between adults now that we can possibly have. And I think that freedom for children to really find their path in life, and for parents to be able to look and see what are their talents, what do they really come with, What do they really want to live? Even if it's against my beliefs, my strongest beliefs, we as parents have the obligation, and as teachers, to incapacitate, if that's an English word, to empower the individual when they're young to really find their passion in life. If we, as educators, as parents, are able to do that, we will prevent a lot of illness later in life.
Yeah.
So that's as a snippet before. And then in terms of health for people now, so that's about prevention. Another prevention really that I learned at Emerson College is really that rhythm of going through the day with a certain rhythm, of respecting our different capacities and potentials we have during the day, and the optimum way of working. I mean, just imagine meditation, for example, or with prayer or with contemplation, instead of just jumping out of bed. You start the day meeting with your peers and with your teachers and other staff members, the whole community. There's no differentiation in terms of, well, I'm better than you because I'm a teacher, or I'm a staff member and you're just a student, or whatever. We would all come together and do community work together. So we'd go to the farm together, get some fresh air, first thing in the morning, harvest vegetables, and prepare them for the cooks in the kitchen together. We would clean the place together. So like many Eastern philosophies, they're very strong about, you have to do the menial jobs to really appreciate life to the full. You would study together, you would paint together, you would make crafts together. So I would say nowadays, the biggest aspect that's missing for people in this life, and I see it more and more through the systematization of professionalism and departmentalization, is that people are not able anymore in their profession to live their full being. So say a cleaner, for example, in a hospital used to be able to talk to the patients, to give them water, to have, a cheery chat, to help them with things, to be human. Whereas now they come in, they're subcontracted, they're focused on cleaning. They don't even say hi to the patients anymore because they got to get in and out. They're not participative anymore. They're not filling their life with their passion anymore. They just got to do a job, earn their living, and it cuts them off from their lifeline.
Yeah, so they are kind of put in a box and they have to be in it, doing this.
In it, and if they're not in the box, they're fired.
Yeah, okay.
And that's why I'm such an advocate for people actually creating their own businesses, becoming entrepreneurs, risking to not have security anymore, though that's creating stress, but partial stress, temporary stress is very healthy. And also it's very fulfilling to create your life rather than fulfill the dreams of some boss that is creaming off the profits and living his life to the full, not paying you at the amount that you're valuable for, that your value is in terms of what you're contributing. So frustration happens on all levels. And I think we really have to liberate ourselves, find that freedom in ourselves to really ask ourselves the question, what is my passion in my life? What do I really want to manifest in this life? What would I be happy to do? Or like some people say, what's your hobby that you could turn into a profession and could turn into a livelihood?
Yeah. And so I think that sort of ties back with what we were talking about in terms of your journey, is all your experiences and all the struggles and personal difficulties you've had of feeling you were lacking in certain areas and so on. And then you became, by compensating and by learning how to look after yourself, then you ended up sort of developing an expertise that then you can then offer the world and become a mentor and a teacher. So what, when you were talking about professional life and rhythm in your daily life and so on, I got the sense that, or the way it sounded to me, is that you were talking about already a community that is there, where people live together, they wake up, they meditate together, they do things together and so on. Now, one of the signs of life in this day and age is that community doesn't exist in very many places. And so people live in their families, they live in their homes and so on. And they just go to the workplace to do their work and then go back home. So how would the rhythm then apply to those people? I'm imagining most of our viewers are in
Yeah.
that category.
Great question. And I've dabbled a lot in research the last 3-4 years, met a lot of interesting doctors, psychologists, nutritionists, life coaches, etc., and tons of people that give us great value through podcasts and videos like this that we're trying to create for the world to educate and to empower people. What I found most interesting is that the biggest divisive factor, onslaught on our health right now, is our very digital devices like mobile phone and computer and television, the screens, disrupting sleep, disrupting our peace and quiet to actually start quietening down in the evening and really going to bed early.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you remember, for all those who are listening, the old saying, an hour of sleep before midnight is worth 2. This is verified now with the melatonin replenishment in the body, which is the calming hormone, the restorative hormone, the regenerative hormone that helps us to reset our body system, the brain, clean out the cellular tissue, clean out all the toxins and poisons. It's not being able to come in anymore, just as one of the hormones, to isolate one. So we have this onslaught of sleep deprivation, anxiety, fear, body is going downhill in its health. So I would say the main factor nowadays, particularly in the younger generation, as I understand, is suicidal rate, depression, and other mental illnesses are on the rise because of the lack of the body to rest at night, reset, and regenerate. This is the most predominant in youngsters and teenagers. It is taking over also for adults as we're getting more computer savvy and using our mobile phones even at older age, and it totally compromises our rhythm in terms of the diurnal rhythm of going to sleep early enough.
I'm remember sort of reading recently Lost Connections, the book by Johan Hari, who was talking about depression and so on. And one of the things that he was saying is that the average person, and I can't remember if this was in the US or in the developed worlds, but the average person checks their emails at 6:32 in the morning.
Yeah.
So
okay,
that's pretty much the first thing that many people do in the morning. And if we think about when they check their emails for the last time at night, I'm pretty sure
absolutely
as well.
Yeah. So we go to bed with our mobile, we wake up with our mobile. And why I mentioned is about sleep deprivation. So people tend to go to bed at 1 and 2 o'clock in the morning. They got to be at work at 8 or 9, whatever profession they have, maybe some even earlier, 7. And the question is, how do we get out of bed? We get out of bed the way we go to bed, stressed. If we go with meditation, with red light, with quiet, and maybe reading a book or meditating or coming inward, reflecting on the day, the best way really to go to sleep is reflect upon the day and do a review of the day and see what I've done, appreciate the day. If we go to sleep with appreciation and gratitude and see the graces that we had in the day, both through good and bad situations that met us, we wake up with that grace. We wake up with that amazing appreciation. It's another day. Thank you. Thank you, God. Thank you, whatever we believe in. Thank me for being here and having another day and waking up refreshed, not to an alarm, if possible. Even we have to go to work by 8 or 7 o'clock, and waking up with the sunlight, waking up with the birds. I mean, I'm so aware of this now with, spring. When the birds started singing like 4 weeks ago, it's like that woke me up. I didn't need an alarm because I went to bed early enough. I'm a late going to bed person, but I still wake up with the birds. I obviously don't seem to need that much sleep anymore, but there you go. As you get older, supposedly less sleep is healthier. But having said that, so in the morning, how do we start the day? You say, well, most people look at their already messages or on their email or whatever. Can we start the day actually with self-care? Can we start the day again with going, well, how do I feel? Some people might even want to check in. How does my inner child feel? What does my child want to play with today? What joy do I want to have today? rather than, oh no, first email, I'm overdrawn in a bank account, I have a first stressor. How am I going to get the money? And then the whole day is just stress. So the second thing would be really then to go, well, what's my morning routine? Can I establish a morning routine? For some people, it might be exercise. For me, exercise is 5 o'clock. I'm so used to evening exercising, I can't exercise in the morning. I fall asleep after exercising in the morning. But stretching maybe, you know, which is not too strenuous. Maybe a nice warm cup of herbal tea or lemon or something that resets our whole body, good glass of water to cleanse out all the toxins that have been washed out at night. There's so much we can do first for ourselves. I love, since having listened to Wim Hof, about having cold showers. I can't do without the cold shower. So if you get 1 to 2 minutes, kill all those old cells, all the old mitochondria, before you even get going in the day, so the new ones come to life and serving you for the day to be vital. And then you start thinking about, what are you really wanting to have your day look like? Instead of other people coming into your life and saying, you're going to have the life like that. Once you set up a morning like that, and it could be very varied according to your passions, your interests, and personal sort of way of life, the day at work will start differently. You will start meeting people differently. The old saying, did you get out with the wrong leg again this morning? In German, we say you get up with the left leg. And the whole day is a mess. You know, you meet angry people, people cut in front of you in traffic, and it's just a mess the whole day. So if you get up with the right leg, in a real sense, in the right attitude, your day is going to unfold differently. That creates health.
Yeah. So it's about sort of taking charge, responsibility, and looking after yourself. And so again, I know because I know the gardening is so close to you, I can see some parallels in there, in that, you know, we as human beings sort of have the rhythms of nature, and you know, we kind of follow physically and psychologically and spiritually the same rhythms of you know, the sun going around the earth, or the other way around, of course. And so, you know, when you are going to plant anything, there is a lot of preparation that goes in. You know, there is
absolutely, you're quite right there.
Look for the right place. You make, you know, you've got your compost that you've been building for months to be ready to be able to nurture it, and so on. So likewise, I think you do the same thing in the morning. You prepare for you to then begin to plant the seeds.
And there we see the parallel you're creating now. It's the inward time, it's a regenerative time for the soil, the compost. It's also for us as gardeners to start previewing the year, planning, getting the seed, getting the best seed, preparing the soil. And then when we lay the seed in the ground, just like when we start opening the door at the workplace, things start flowing, taking care of themselves, because where our focus goes, where our preparation goes, the energy flows. And it attracts, like my dad used to say so beautifully, the way you shout into the forest, the echo comes back. If you open the door with a smile, people will start smiling at you. If you start opening the door and grumpy and tired and sleep lack, you know, and all that, people will look at you that way, and you get the response that you deserve. I think really we are creating our life. If we become responsible again to create our life, each one responsibly for themselves, and not us anymore like we do so readily in this society, we will have this life, and every day will be more and more beautiful unfolding, even if we have the most abysmal job that we might think is not, you know, we don't deserve it. We might be in it for a reason. To do the best we can in any situation.
Yeah, of course. So attitude and having your morning routines and having healthy routines is paramount to preserve your health. And then also what I know about you is that nutrition is very important to you, and that starts with your own garden. You've been passionate about getting people to create a beautiful garden in the backyard and grow their own vegetables and so on. Can you say a bit more about that side of things?
Absolutely. So gardening started with me, for me, with a palm tree in my flat when I was 21 after leaving the army, and it was dying.
Mm-hmm.
And I consulted with other people. I had a rabbit in the house. Also, I had a little, little zoo. And I learned my first tricks of reviving plants. And I started getting interested in the plant world in that way that I thought, well, I had house plants. And my mother had house plants, but we never had a garden. They lost their land in Hungary. They were refugees. We lived up in a flat somewhere. And I was always in nature, but never was much in gardens. So I don't know where that need for gardening came from. I think it was really my spirit, my wisdom saying, you got to go in the garden, because I was going to be a airline pilot. I was going to say pirate, probably airline pirate. I would have crashed the plane because I need grounding. For me, I think the grounding with the plants, the green color, the calming, because I was a very nervous kid. I think that really drew my attention. And so I was very lucky with Emerson College teaching the most qualitatively developed way of organic gardening and farming, and also integrating it into what was the rural development work overseas with other cultures. So that was such an attraction that I learned in that program, with the privilege of having 5 teachers in the first year of my study and 5 students. It's a very high teacher ratio. I learned everything about nature. I didn't know trees were flowering. I didn't know that, you could transplant plants and propagate trees and graft the fruit trees. And I learned about everything in gardening, about small animals. So much so that after the first year I was capable already of teaching most of the gardening side of things, and then also about animals and other technologies. And my passion with it was also with Emerson College being a community and having a founder, Francis Edmonds, who was talking passionately about community-supported agriculture. So our old model of having a gardener, farmer own his land, or working for a landlord or a big estate, we turned around. Well, it was the Japanese impulse from the 60s, which turned it around. People wanting to come back from the city to the land with their children, experience the rhythm of nature, being more responsible again for the land. So community-supported agriculture for me was a very early on impulse to support, which basically means the community owns the land. They hire a farmer gardener. He provides all the food for them that they need in season. So this is where it really became interesting, because that helped me to concentrate more on food that was seasonal, local, and protect green belts around cities and villages that were fertile land from construction. So it's also a very environmentally sound, sustainable impulse of creating these local food production units that are community owned again, like they used to be in the past. So that's my passion. And I did that in 6 different countries, led my own projects, big ones, 3.5 acre food production with associations of inner Hartford, Connecticut communities and orphans and refugees and what have you, and creating a huge surplus of food using this biodynamic method, which if you want to look it up, Google it. It's one of the most health-giving, qualitatively highly developed, and also scientifically highly developed agricultural methods that are existing on this planet.
Okay, and so so again, that sort of explains your experience and kind of shows all the wealth of knowledge that you've gathered around the years for animals, plants, trees, all those things. And so again, I'm thinking about the application of that. I am assuming that most of our viewers live in a house. They may have a garden, they may not, they may have some pots, whatever it is. And I know that for you, it's very important that the food that we put in our bodies, a body that is a temple, the food that we put in it is food that is properly grown, that is full of nutrients, that is full of life forces, that is not just about getting a seed from Monsanto and just put it in a soil that you just buy and put it there and it will grow. Yes, of course it will grow, but it's something that is more consciously and more holistically nurtured. So what would you say to our viewers, to our listeners, and how would you advise they begin to take charge of their own food and what they put in their bodies?
I would say any piece of soil, even if it's just a pot in your kitchen windowsill, get some really good seeds, and I urge you to get organic, biodynamic, open pollinated seeds, not any of the F1 hybrid seeds that will not give you the quality of nutrition that you need. And it will also require more fertilization, and you over fertilize, and then the pests come and diseases. And if you start eating food just like most people eat conventional food, and pests and diseases come in and you have to control them with other chemicals, you compromising your food intake, and you compromising the life forces you take in. So the right seed from the beginning, in any context, I would say there's so much on Google right now. You can Google a lot of things. If you really want to get hands-on experience and education on this, join us on our journey with the 1-year biodynamic gardening course, which is Grow Your Own Health in Forest Row, Sussex in the UK. We're expanding these sort of projects where individuals, like in this case, one person has become a custodian for a derelict garden, which we're restoring while we're actually teaching over a year period, 7 modules, where you can learn all the ins and outs of practical biodynamic applied gardening and apply it to your own soil, to your own pot, to your own environment. Share it with others, because I think at this moment what's really important is, and that I learned early in my life, is when you start not just doing but also sharing, you start developing a very fast lane of learning. You learn much faster when you want to share it with other people. And I think that motivation of helping other people that have as much need or more need than you to improve their health with health-giving food is a wonderful way of creating that extra little pressure, extra little motivation that then propels you to live your life to the full. So I would say that's one thing. And then this wonderful rhythm of having to tend to your plants and your garden every day, where you have no excuse, television falls to the side, the news, the bad news and everything else falls to the side and the wayside, and nature opens itself up as its own therapeutic environment.
Okay. And so I think what you're saying is basically get your hands dirty, get some seeds, get some good quality seeds, find a piece of soil and start gardening.
And if you can, find a community of support, again, where you have peers, where you have accountability partners, where you have teachers, where you have experienced people. As they say in Spain, we don't have to rediscover America, it's been discovered, so learn from others. Your learning curve will be even faster. And when you learn from others and then share with others, even faster, because it's just proven fact. You're having so much joy when you start sharing this with others. And also you share your food then with others. You share the recipes, how you cook and so on. We've just recently, over the last half year or so, connected with 5 Flavors of Health and Agnes Kern, who's going to have a lovely workshop in Reading where my partner and I are participating. So networking with other groups that work holistically and favor locally grown food, ways of preparing your food, the way we eat the food together. So it's that whole journey from the way you prepare going in the garden, the way you prepare the seed, the way you prepare growing with the plants outside, and you grow with the plants, because as you tend the plants, you're challenged. It's not always easy. And then you appreciate that food that you harvest in your own garden, the delicious tastes, flavors, colors, textures that you can get out of your own garden.
And, of course, it's great to have a community, as you say, and if people can find their own community and their own teachers and to be able to start gardening and learn about gardening and sharing with each other physically, then that'd be great.
Yeah.
And yet, one of the signs of our age is that people feel quite disconnected, and it's not unlikely that people live in their home and they actually use their computers to connect with people.
Yeah.
Which can also happen. What we are doing here at the Healing Matrix Online is making really good information available to people so that they can actually find it one click away from their own home.
That's right,
It's not the same thing as bringing the same people and the experts worldwide to your house.
Yeah.
But of course, it may be the second best option. So is there information out there about gardening and basics in terms of, how you plant your garden, the sun and the shade, and how it works in the seasons? And is that available online?
You bet. As I said, any good question you're able to ask and you Google it, you'll find the answers. There is about organic farming, there's about biodynamic farming, permaculture, agro, ecology. It's all out there. Okay. If you want to really follow a specific community, I offer for you also to be on a holistic living university side, which is a private group where you can become a member, where I give updates every week about the stars, the weather, not just stars in the way and the planets, the way they influence the soil and the plant growth, but also how it influences us, our moods and the seasons and all that, the changes. So I give you a great orientation every week, what you can do with your soil, with your plant, with your own body, to really live in harmony and rhythm with nature. I'm sure there's a lot of other ones out there. You just Google and, click away. We'll have a wonderful platform on the Healing Matrix where we're going to, of course, accompany you with all the modalities of complementary medicine, therapy, nutrition, movement, exercise, fitness, wellness, meditation, self-care, and coaching possibilities, where we're going to offer also services of that nature. One thing I haven't mentioned I'm really passionate about is also essential oils that I've integrated in the last 4 years into my life. And I will integrate it more into the garden work also, as we use herbs for cooking, essential oils for cooking, for emotional states, mental health, and also to work with pests and diseases. So look me up on Facebook, Hans Gunther Kern, that's Hans Guntherkern. You can also look up Holistic Living doTERRA. So holistic is with a W, not the English way, not holistic, it's holistic, WHOLISTIC living, doTERRA, DOTERRA, where I give lots of information also, all free of charge, for the different health modalities that we can actually introduce into our lifestyle. So there are many, many possibilities. And then I urge you, as Urtzi, you pointed out rightly, just doing it on the internet, clicking the buttons is not going to change your life. You gotta, like the oils we say, you gotta open the bottle and breathe it and ingest it and put it on you. You gotta open the door, get out into nature, get dirty, get those fingernails dirty. Best nutrition, actually. Take it up through your fingernails. Taste that life outside, the green life, the nature life, in the rhythms of the seasons. That's the ultimate.
Okay. And so just to be clear, what you were talking about, Holistic University and Holistic doTERRA, they are both Facebook groups. Is that correct?
Yeah, Facebook groups. Yeah. And then, of course, we'll have the platform with the Healing Matrix, which will be both as a website available for you to click on. And then also, I understand, we'll create a YouTube link. So that's a community where you very readily find an amazing community to become part of. And we want to grow this community big. We want to be very influential. We want to empower as many people as possible, as fast as possible. Because I think what you have to be aware of, this is about a balance. Many of you have heard of the 80-20 balance. Eat 80% good food. You can dabble in junk food and stuff if you're healthy. 20%, just relax, just do what you want, do what you desire. But 80% has to be the mainstay. Eat 80% local food, in season, healthy, homegrown, community grown, locally grown. Cook from scratch 80% of your food. 80% of your time, ideally, in an ideal world, would be self-care and artistic expression. 20% would need to be actually serving other people. So we're looking at creating that kind of economy. And 80-20, I would say, is the rule for everything that we apply. So take that as a grain of wisdom.
Okay. Well, thank you. I'm just aware of time, Hans, and so I think we need to bring this to a close.
That's it.
We'll make sure that we get links on the show notes to your Holistic University Facebook group, as well as the Holistic doTERRA Facebook group. And then, of course, you know, there's a lot, as a co-founder and co-interviewer at the Healing Matrix online, which is the healingmatrix.online. You are doing and have done a lot of interviews with very influential people, with experts worldwide. And so basically looking at your interviews and the questions that you ask, we'll also get our audience to know more about you and your particular approach in life. So by all means, please check Hans's interviews as well as our interviews. There's lots of information that you can find at thehealingmatrix.online. So thank you very much, Hans. I hope you have a wonderful day. Keep up the good work.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for being with us. Is there anything else you'd like to say? Any closing?
Yeah, I'd just like to thank you, Urtzi, for your astute and very structured way and very clear way of interviewing me. Feel very honored about having you in my life as company, as friend, as colleague, the co-founder of the Healing Matrix. And I know we're going to do some amazing work together. And it's both for ourselves and our own growth, I know, because I got my own healing journey to undertake, but then always to share it with others and multiply it. So I so look forward to that on this journey, and blessed be your day and all of you out there.
Thank you very much, Hans.